Alright guys, I went to a council meeting tonight with some more research and evidence I did on the homeless man that they tortured inside their jail cell. You will see that they violated all kinds of policies on this man, and you know, they tortured him. Didn't know what they were doing, were not trained. Anyway, subscribe, help me out. Watch till the end because I'm actually going to show you the report that of their self-auditing cops who audited themselves and found themselves not guilty. What a joke.
Okay. Good afternoon, guys. Oof. So again, that's complete bullshit. If I want to personally affront any one of y'all, we can all do it. I don't care about your code. Please refer to the First Amendment right. Okay. I received all officers' training records on Herman. Herman's the guy y'all put in, he was in prison and y'all put him up with leg wraps and basically tortured a poor man. With that said, the training records were not released from APPD. Y'all refused to give them to me. We all know why. Now, I have limited resources, and I still investigated this better than any of y'all sitting up there, and y'all didn't even really try, huh, Randy? Here's the facts. All officers were trained on body cam and body cam policy. Mr. K-Mac came inside that room, did not have his body cam on.
What the fuck's your problem, Herman? That's how that goes. They tell him to stand up, he stands up. Tell him to put his hands behind his back, he puts his hands behind his back. He listens to commands.
That is against policy. Not a single officer was trained on the leg restraint device that they utilized against policy.
God damn it, hurt! You hurt this! You broke my fucking wrist, you got fucking hurt. You want to make a deal?
You keep twisting your twist, man.
Don't go away, let's make a deal.
Hey,
Don't
she's
move.
trying to
Don't
lose
go away.
No officers were first aid trained. No officers were trained in the emergency detention policy, which was this about. Herman was suicidal, injured by officers, didn't receive medical treatment, was left exposed, and restrained by cops who had no training.
My good boy. My good boy. My good boy. I don't do nothing. My good boy. My good boy, okay? My good boy. My good boy.
Let's go from that.
APD decided to self-audit themselves and found themselves not guilty. Way to go, Aaron Jones, for stepping on us, right? That's your officer. I guess he follows your rules, huh, Pound Cake? Now, the policy. This is the APD's policy. General criteria for supervision. If an individual believes that he may be suicidal, which this guy did, the officer shall ensure continual direct supervision. Officers cleared his room, removed his blankets and his bedding because they knew he was suicidal. They did not follow this procedure. Initiating temporary custody. The officer should specifically ask if the individual is contemplating suicide. They did that. And he said 7 times, I'm suicidal. When they do that, you're supposed to get him evaluated for suicidal intent. Y'all didn't follow policy. Kudos, Pound Cake. Suicide attempt, death, or serious injury. Immediate request of emergency medical. Well, y'all told me he was going to be seriously hurt because he stood on a toilet. Y'all didn't follow policy. Way to go, Pound Cake. Release and transfer. Any known threats of suicide or medical condition, it must be documented. There is no documentation of suicide. Didn't follow policy. Training, suicide prevention. Not a single officer was trained on suicide prevention. Thank you, Randy, for investigating that. Not. Emergency detention policy. This is the policy you're supposed to train your people on. Your fucking job. Your job to make sure he does it. Both of y'all failed at it. It's your job to get rid of these people. Voluntary evaluation. If the person desires for emergency detention, the officer should transport the person to the appropriate facility that is conducted an evaluation and admit the person as per policy. Policy was not
I sent an email out to Randy Haskins prior to coming to this meeting in hopes that he would do something about all these policy violations by the police department and actually do an investigation, get the Texas Rangers involved. But Randy Haskins didn't bother to write back to me at all, and I laid it all out for him. I even attached the APD policy manual with the highlights so he can find it himself to know I'm not full of shit and a liar like he likes to call me, even though I am not. What I find is that these scumbags will call you a liar, a piece of shit, a big-headed, ego, mother, narcissistic, whatever, but never back it with any kind of data. They just run their fucking mouths. Anyway, I'm going to open up the training sessions. I'm just going to do one, Mr. Jones. There's more. If you want them, I'll gladly send them to you, but I want to show you that they're not trained. Okay, this is Officer Jones. Basic peace officer stuff, more basic peace officer stuff, and I'll stop anywhere that looks remotely like suicide prevention training or emergency detention training or the leg strap training, right? But you're going to find that they don't have them. None of these guys were trained on that. Now, Jones was the only one to have constitutional training, and he had that last year. Neither of the other officers had constitutional training. Go figure, right? It's not like these guys care about constitutional rights anyway. Jones basically let this elderly man get abused in jail and covered up for his officers. Back to blue, right? Well, motherfuckers come back. Now people are going to know you're a piece of shit. And I hope when we get a new chief, because this fucking pound cake's a piece of shit, he'll clean house and fire all these motherfuckers. CPR, check it out. And they're going to say, yeah, he's trained. Bullshit. CPR is only good for 2 years, and it's not first aid. That's just CPR. His CPR expired. CPR expired. Nothing. Basic police officer communication. They got sexual harassment stuff, COVID. Nothing on there about the leg straps, about suicidal policy, or the emergency detention policy. So it's not in here, guys. They're not trained on this stuff. But if you read his report, oh, look at that. First aid. Last time he did it was 2018, so it's been expired for 6 years. Good job, Jones. Good job. Oh, by the way, good job, Pound Cake, for taking care of your guys and making sure they're trained. What the fuck do we pay you for? Anyway, these guys have not been trained on it. So in Aaron's report that you'll see here in a minute, he's going to say that they followed the law, they followed the policy, and they followed the rap restraint device to a T. Well, no, they didn't, and you weren't even trained on it. So how can you say that they were trained on it, buddy, and knew what they were doing? You're full of shit. Anyway, guys, we're getting back into 2015. As you can see, they are not trained. Chief Blanchard lied. Randy lied.
As you can see, Randy, I am not a liar. What you, Chief Blanchard, and Officer Jones have done is despicable and unprofessional. Y'all covered up abuse of power. I expect council to do something about it, maybe get Texas Rangers involved, but you won't do it because you're all corrupt except for Jason Knight. He's the only person sitting up there that didn't violate any constitution.
Hey guys, so I showed you they violated a bunch of policies, didn't follow their own rules, self-audited themselves, found themselves not guilty. Well, now I'm going to show you Officer Aaron Jones' investigation, which is a load of bullshit. It's almost as bad as Randy Haskins, who got a third-party cop to look at one video and say, oh, not guilty. These guys are full of shit. Anyway, here comes Officer Jones. I'm going to tear him apart, too. Here it is.
This is the investigation Officer Aaron Jones did against his own department. And I wanted to know about it on 503. I asked questions, because council won't, nobody else will. Chief Blanchard didn't give a shit. Okay. Allegation was number one was Detective Valdez failed to investigate assault reported to him by Herman. Allegation number two, this is not what I said, but it is alleged that officer assaulted Herman by jumping on his leg. I didn't say that. The rest of the stuff, no. Straight jacket, yes, but it's a leg restraint. Fair enough, all right? And in number three, it is alleged that another officer not named failed to investigate a second attempt reported on assault of Herman Gray. I never said that either, so I don't know where that came from. Number four, it is alleged that Mr. Gray asked for mental assistance numerous times, yet officers fled. I did say that one too. So, Mr. Aaron Jones investigates, and he says that in the text messages, Mr. Gray stated in summary that he was in fear and that he thought that he needed to leave town. In response, Officer Valdez, said, yeah, man, I'd leave for a bit if you can. This message appeared to have happened on Wednesday. So Officer Valdez did tell him to leave. But here's their excuse. These messages were sent to Valdez's work phone. This phone is issued for him to use for department-related on-call status, and there was no requirement of Valdez to basically do his off-duty job. All right, they're off-duty, you don't have to do anything, is what they're telling me. Well, Valdez did not tell Mr. Herman Gray that he needed to leave town, only partially agreed with the previous statement. You believe that crap? Here's the actual text messages. And you see, Herman does say, I need to know if I need to leave town, bro. Call me. This guy's scared. He got beat with a bat. Nobody's helping him. And down here, this is Valdez, and he says, yeah, man, I'd leave town for a little bit if you can. Why is an officer telling somebody to leave town instead of helping the man? Now, if we go to policy, they're basically saying an officer doesn't have to help. However, any officer who becomes aware of an incident circumstance that she reasonably poses immediate threat of serious body or significant property damage or loss may take reasonable action. Well, this guy got beat with a bat. Mr. Valdez basically turned his back on him. What else does it say? Excuse me. If involvement is reasonably necessary, the officer should attempt to call 911. Well, I would say someone getting beaten by a bat and scared for your life is a call for 911. Valdez, you failed. Reporting. If prior notification to the appropriate local law enforcement agency is not reasonably possible, meaning he was off duty, didn't have time to do it, well, before taking action, the officer shall notify an agency as soon as reasonably practical. Valdez never did that. Number 2 by Mr. Jones. This is K-Mac and Officer Rivera. They placed the top portion of the wrap on Mr. Gray. This is a leg restraint device. It's supposed to be in a seated position. They did not follow protocol, did not follow manufacturer specs, and were not trained. There were no inappropriate activities observed by Mr. Jones at this time. Well, if you had been trained on this, Mr. Jones, you too would know that they are not following policy. They are not following manufacturer specs. And putting somebody's trunk into a vice and pulling on it several times, by the way, it's very inappropriate. So you're full of shit. All right. I reviewed the body cam footage of Mr. Rivera's body cam. Notice I didn't say anything about K-Mac's, because K-Mac violated policy and did not have his body cam on. He observed the wrap placed in an appropriate manner. Well, that's horseshit, because Mr. Jones, you are not trained on that device either. And I will show everybody everyone's training records. You're full of shit. There was never any punches or anybody jumping on legs. He didn't jump on the legs. He kneeled on his legs, put his weight on his legs. It's a big man putting pressure on a little old man who was not fighting back at all, was not resisting at all, and that was uncalled for, and you know it. The application of the wrap was merely used as a restraining device, and its use of itself does not meet the requirements of use of force. Correct, but what did they do? Injured his leg by putting a bruise on it, right? Put his junk up in a wrap and pulled on it numerous times, and that is very inappropriate if you ask me, Officer Jones. And they also put abrasions on his arms, left him in his own blood for about an hour while he sat there with his genitals exposed. So I would say that your allegation that you found your guy innocent is full of crap, and you're not the qualified person to be doing this investigation.
You want me to call you next? You want me to call you next?
Okay, boys. I'm going to take you if you want to kill me, let him kill me.
Hey, you want to have a seat? Go ahead.
Allegation number 3, Captain Rhodes did a follow-up on 510. This was a couple of weeks after the incident, so this is after he got beat with a bat and after the officers tortured him in the jail cell. The rap, Mr. Gray stated that he was upset because he didn't know the officers. Well, I'd love to see body cam footage on this, and they're also talking to a handicapped person. He's mentally challenged, right? And we all know how these cops are, and they coach him. Sad. Anyway, he said he was beating on the walls, which he was, and he was cussing up a storm too, and he covered cameras. It doesn't mean you get to beat the guy and put him in restraints. Those restraints are specifically used if he's going to hurt himself or hurt others. So this is full of shit. He said he knew that the officers weren't trying to hurt him. They understood they were doing the job. I missed the spot. I'm sorry. He said the officers were rough, but told him not to resist, and he did not. So why are they being rough with him? Doesn't have to be rough with him at all. He's a little bitty old man who's handicapped, basically. You know, he's mentally challenged. The wrap is used to immobilize people. Mr. Gray stated that it worked great. Yeah, because they had him immobilized, laying on his side, which is against manufacturing specs, for an hour with his junk hanging out. There is no indication that any of the actions taken by the officers constituted force. Well, sir, can you explain how his arms were raised during this altercation, how he got a bruise on his right leg from your officer kneeling down on him, putting pressure on him for a man that's not fighting back, and how his junk was strapped up and yanked on 4 or 5 times, I don't remember off the top of my head, and he was left exposed. So, Mr. Jones, I think self-auditing yourself, you are a piece of shit scumbag, sir. Have a nice day. That's not what I asked at all. I don't know where they got that crap. I don't have time to go into that. But number 4, during the warrant arrest, where Mr. Gray came to the police department and turned himself in, he mentioned when he first had contact with the officer K-Mac that he did not know if he was going to jail or going to a mental institution. Well, when he got there, he actually asked for the mental ward as soon as he got there, sir. And then he said that he called ahead and they said he was going to the mental ward. So let's be real, not be pieces of shit, and show the evidence. Because all your calls are recorded, you motherfucker, right? So show them, quit lying to us, and we all watched the video where Herman asked for that. There were no actions on this contact that warranted the officer to take Mr. Gray under the application of emergency detention. Bullshit, and I already showed y'all that. I showed you agency policy where they're supposed to do this, but they didn't do it. Why? One of 2 reasons. They didn't give a shit, or they weren't trained. And we know they weren't trained, but it still could be both, right? And then, as he refers to the Texas Health and Safety Code 573, 001, claims peace officers may apprehend a person without a warrant if the person has mental illness. Well, that's what Herman said. He's not right in the head. He needs to go to suicide, and y'all denied him that, sir. And then you found yourself not guilty, and I just proved you wrong again, you piece of